Hi, welcome back to the channel. I'm Sean.
I'm Marissa.
And we're joined today by our son Walker and our dog Mabel running around somewhere around here too. And this is Red Maple Ranch. So we're sitting in what we hope to be our future living room one day. I have some notes with me on some common questions and some of our experiences while we have purchased this property. So I just wanted to take a couple minutes to share some of the information to hopefully help someone out who has the need to buy vacant land or isn't too sure of the process. So we started looking for property back in like
About 2019, I would say, before the pandemic.
Yeah.
We had, always wanted a farm of our own, so we started just cold calling people with pieces of land and trying to figure out if anyone was willing to sell.
Yeah, so that seemed like the best option rather than going on a realtor website trying to find something on the market. Trying to find something off market seemed like the better approach for us. But we ended up getting an opportunity to buy this property in 2020. We started negotiations, and this is a 94-acre parcel. It's vacant land, and it was originally part of a larger parcel of land of about 400 acres. So we had to go through the whole process of subdividing the property off of the original and creating its own parcel ID for it. So before we could do that, we had to actually have a survey for the property, and the survey took about 4 weeks, and it cost $8,500 to survey the 94-acre property here. And it's pretty thick brush and has about 17 corners, so that really drove up the price for the cost of the survey. And of course, this is for southwestern Pennsylvania. It could be different for your area.
So part of parceling off a piece of land in our area, before you can even actually purchase it, you have to get a Perk Test, which is just to prove that you will have a septic system, or prove that a septic system would function for your plot of land. They won't sell it if your land does not perk, which is like a certain flow of how your water goes through a hole. Sean probably can explain that a little bit better, but basically the process is we had to get the sewage enforcer out here, dig some holes, pour water in, and watch as it flowed to hope that it flows in a certain time period. If you fail that perk test, they will give you the option of saying that you are not building on the land, and you can have vacant land for other uses like hunting, but you can't have a failed perk test and still parcel off your piece of land. And during the perk test, they do things like grade your soil. They had a kit where they looked through the layers and just saw what we had. I think we're usually a pretty clay heavy area. So
at least for our area, after we have a positive perk test, we had to have the DEP sign off on our Component 1 form. And with that Component 1 form, that's basically just saying that we have adequate perk testing and that we can move on to the next step, and that would be to take all of our signed surveys, perk tests, and even a driveway permit into the zoning office so we can get the final subdivision made up. And of course that takes a while because the zoning office only meets 1 day a week for each of these issues, and if you have anything wrong with your paperwork, then it gets pushed to the next week and you have to wait. It's not like you can just fix your issues in a day and have it signed. So a long process. The whole process of buying the property from start to finish, from agreed upon price per acre, which we'll get into later, to actually closing on the property took about 13 months. So of course COVID had a little bit to do with that, but it's also a pretty complicated process regardless. So after your subdivision is complete, usually just set up a date with your lawyer, and we had to have the bank there as we were getting a loan. So they basically just have you sign papers at that point. It was pretty straightforward for us. Maybe about a 20-minute process. Just actually getting in to see the lawyer took a while because of COVID and their restrictions. Okay, so now I guess we'll get into the part that everyone's always curious about. So what costs did we actually go through while buying the property? So of course we already talked about, thank you buddy. So of course we already talked about the $8,500 for the full survey of the property before we initially bought it. But there was also the Perk Test, which was $400. There's a $50 driveway permit. There's a $30 fee for the DEP signature. And the lawyer fees to transfer the deed roughly were about $1,000. So that works out to a few $1,000s just to purchase the property. And the property itself being 94 acres, we ended up agreeing on $1,300 an acre with the previous owners. So with the 94 acres, that ends up being around $126,000 total. So in Pennsylvania, to buy vacant land, you can actually go through a vacant land loan process where the bank will fund it, but you have to have 37.5% down usually to get the vacant land loan. And that's just because they have more liability in it, since there's no actual building on the property, or you're not immediately building for like a new construction home. So once you have the 37.5% down, then they'll finance the rest through the bank. And so in addition to the original piece of the property that was 94 acres here, we ended up buying the 1 acre with the hunting club on it that you guys normally see most of our projects at, and that's the home we're actually renovating to live in, and we've been living in for the past year or so. And really the initial idea was to just knock it down and put our driveway through there for better access, but once we started looking at home building prices, it just made more sense to actually renovate it and have it as a house on the property for either our parents to move into or a possible rental property one day. Additionally, we also bought another 1.5 acres on the other side of the property just as a good opportunity, since it had come up also, and it just helps with developing the property and gaining more access.
So far, since we've gotten the property, we've done a few things just to start to get established. We've created some trails to have better access to other pieces of the property. That included brush hogging and doing some tree trimming, just figuring out where some old logging trails were to reestablish. And then we also have started to build some hay fields. We've replenished the trees that we've taken out in different areas by planting some saplings and just trying to kind of change the area of land. The biggest change we made is this area that's going to be the house. It's been brush hogged, then we did some grading. It still needs final grade, but we've been working on getting this ready for the house site. And we've also established a kind of driveway access to have a direct road from this piece of the property to our current home, what we call the hunting club. And that's, I think, the biggest things we've changed so far.
Well, I think that really wraps up about the basics of the property and kind of what we've been through so far just buying it. So definitely, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I'll try my best to answer any questions you guys have, or at least initially here when I first post a video, try to respond as quickly as I can. I'm happy to help out. I know it was a pretty complicated process for us when we started, and we didn't really have any idea what to do, since this was our first piece of property we purchased. So that made it a difficult situation, but hopefully, it's a similar process in most areas. Again, this is, for us, our area specifically, so it might be slightly different for other people, but hopefully this will help somebody out and you'll get the opportunity to purchase the vacant land or the property that you were looking at.
And it's just stick around and watch us build our dream.
Yeah, hopefully this will be a good start to the whole process of putting our house here, and we'll start another video in a couple years and recap on where we started here, and we'll be sitting in our living room like we planned to, and it'll be a fun trip.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. Say bye, Walker.